Right. Well, first of all, we start by saying Happy Eid to everybody. Eid Mubarak. And maybe let's start with Takbir. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, walillahil hamd. الله أكبر كبيرا والحمد لله كثيرا وسبحان الله بكرة وأصيلا لا إله إلا الله وحده صدق وعده ونصر عبده وأعز جنده وهزم الأحزاب وحده لا إله إلا الله ولا نعبد إلا إياه مخلصين له الدين ولو كره الكافرون اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وعلى أصحاب سيدنا محمد وعلى أنصار سيدنا محمد وعلى أزواج سيدنا محمد وعلى ذرية سيدنا محمد وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Right, so this is a takbir, the common takbir in Egypt, where I'm from originally. This is the form or the sigha of this takbir when Imam al-Shafi'i went to Egypt and heard it. He said takbir, he basically liked this takbir and said it's good if people will do takbir like that, that's good. So there is no certain form or sigha. You follow the sigha that is common in your country. Don't try to invent something or come with something that they don't know, just so that you don't cause any disturbance. At the same time, those people who saying this takbira is not right, it didn't come in any hadith or anything like that, those people are ignorant. They don't know what they're talking about. And I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, right? So there is absolutely nothing wrong with this takbira, with this sigha, and any other sigha, any other like form in that matter that is common in your country. Follow whatever is known and customize in your country. That's fine. Don't listen to anybody saying, "Oh, this didn't come in hadith," or "We didn't hear that before," or anything like that. All right. So again, happy Eid. كل عام وأنتم بخير. It's still 10 a.m. in the morning here in Canada. So officially Eid hasn't finished, so you can start or you can keep doing takbir, inshallah. And also it's Canada Day, so those of you who are residents or living in Canada, happy Canada Day as well. Someone is asking, I have a fiqh question, but it's not directly related to the course. Can I ask? Yes, brother, you can ask. We will try to address all the questions, but as I said in the Telegram group, I'll just try to give priority to the questions related or more relevant to what we are talking about. But any question you have in mind, whether fiqh or anything else, feel free to post it. If we haven't got a chance to answer it this session, maybe we do another session and we can address all your queries, comments, feedback, questions, whatever you want to talk about. Right, so the first question, which I just noted, is about wouldn't the science of jarh wa ta'dil. Jarh wa ta'dil is basically, as we said, is jarh meaning discrediting somebody. وتعديل meaning crediting that he is trustworthy. So whether discrediting somebody or crediting there, or basically discrediting, fall under غيبة. Whether that is غيبة because you are saying bad things about them. Now the scholar said no, it is not. There's a short answer for sure. For many reasons. First reason, if you are like getting out there and claiming, alleging that you are narrating something, you are delivering an account, a historical account, because al-khabar is a historical account. You are claiming that khabar is true, right? So in according with the ayah, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا. So we are ordered that we have to make sure whatever khabar that we are receiving is correct and true before acting upon it. All right? And so by you taking that responsibility, you are basically waiving your right about ghaiba there within the extent of what you are narrating. So we have to make sure that what you are narrating is correct. We have to make sure that you are trustworthy. You have accurate recollection of what you are narrating and so on. Okay, so it's a necessary element of the hadith. It is the ilm al-hadith and ilm by the way, the affirming, receiving, or affirming that whatever khabar you are receiving is correct and accurate and so on, and tracking it to the source is a ilm that no other ummah has. It's something that us as Ummah and Habib sallallahu alayhi wasallam pride ourselves of. It's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's a gift that Allah gave us and guided us to get it, guided our scholars to think about it and develop it and so on. Okay, and basically it's from the Quran. It's just trying to make sure that whatever you hear is accurate, is correct. You cannot just in a limb hear something and act upon it without making sure it's correct. Okay, as well as the beginning of Surah An-Nur, or the first few pages of Surah An-Nur, that you have to إذ تلقونه بألسنتكم وتقولون بأفواهكم ما ليس لكم به علم. You just receive something and you don't even think about it. You just say it and talk about it without even passing it through your minds, and so that's not a good thing. You have to think about what you are hearing and not just act upon it or passing it on without any credibility. Sheikh, do you support Sheikh Ali Jum'a's position on shaking hands with non-mahram? He deemed it permissible and said there are difference of opinions on it. First of all, if you think that I'm at the level to comment on Sheikh Ali Jum'a's position or something, then you are gravely mistaken, my brother. Sheikh Ali Jum'a is Allama, is one of the greatest scholars, for not just in this era, but in like the last few centuries. It's very hard to find somebody at that level. I don't remember hearing him saying that, but I know that Sheikh al-Azhar actually said that as well. So and the Sheikh Ali Jum'a and Sheikh al-Azhar and so on, they are giving the people living in the West and people living in other places a way to integrate, to be in the not giving an excuse to somebody to say, oh, look, these are Muslims, they are ignorant, they are backwards, and so on and so forth. So if you are living in a place where you don't do that, then just don't do it. If you are living in a place that's actually expected from you and so on, it's very difficult. You're going to be weird if you didn't do that. Then you are allowed perhaps to take the opinion of Sheikh Ali Jum'a or Sheikh al-Azhar. These are great scholars, right? And they didn't do that. They didn't say that opinion on a whim. They have to have went through a lot of research and so on to say something like that. Still, he is saying, if he is saying that, he's saying that's permissible. It is not necessary, or it's not wajib. You don't have to necessarily to do it. You can still also take the better position, or the more reserved and conservative position of not doing it. So it's a very secondary thing that doesn't really need to get out of proportion. I know that other scholars, by the way, rebutted that and didn't accept it from Sheikh al-Azhar, for example. So it's opinion that is supported by some evidence. It's always better to be in the green area, not the gray area. But again, if you are in a hard position, then you have certainly a way out. I've heard that some scholars also accepted the narration of Ahlul Bid'ah under some conditions. So why did Imam Ibn Sirin? Right. So this is a big topic. What exactly? Not anything. Like not any Ahlul Bid'ah you will accept it. And not under and there are a lot of opinions, a lot of conditions. There are people who don't accept it at all whatsoever. It's just an opinion there within the scholars. Some scholars, later scholars, generally say no, you can accept it within like certain conditions, and basically refer to al-Bukhari, for example, narrating to some scholars who were Khawarij. All right, but again, it's certain conditions you have to apply, and there are many opinions. Have been many opinions. Their narration was taken, recorded. Whether it's accepted, it's something that is being going through a development phase of the ilm itself, and the scholars within every period may have different, or within certain periods, debated that among themselves until three main opinions basically have developed and crystallized, took shape, and within certain conditions, generally most people or most scholars will accept or will consider looking at those narrations within certain conditions, and maybe we talk about that inshallah in future courses. Who was the last scholar who recorded a hadith with his very own chain to beloved Prophet, peace be upon him? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I mean, we still have chain of narration to the Prophet until now. I have a continuous chain of narration to the Prophet for all the 9 books, for example. So I'm not sure. Do you mean the scholars who have books? Every book of hadith, like Bukhari, he has continuous narration, right? And then Muslim came after him, and then all the other 6 books and the 9 books. Of course, Al-Muwatta is even before that, Al-Muwatta Imam Malik. But then again, after that, there are a lot of scholars who collated and gathered a hadith, and they still have like a continuous narration. But you can say there are a phase where there are ashab riwayah. We don't have ashab riwayah now. Riwayah, like those people who went to collect a hadith with continuous isnad to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and collated them in books. Maybe that's what you mean. And I mean that would be I think that would be it. So those are the scholars, the 9 books basically. That's the main resources of, or main resource of hadith. It's okay. So just so that everybody is aware, when those scholars wrote their books, they have their own standard. Al-Bukhari, for example, he didn't just talk or collated Sahih Bukhari or Sahih Hadith. He has Al-Adab al-Mufrad. He has a Tarikh. He has other books where he collated and gathered a lot of hadith that he knows, and he basically compiled and got from their sources directly, right? And then he decided to make a Sahih al-Bukhari within certain, or Sahih book within certain conditions that he put forth. Those conditions were then accepted by scholars as a good standard. But again, Muslim came, for example, and he had his own conditions and parameters for what he will call Sahih, which is a little less than restrict than al-Bukhari. Okay? Ibn Majah, for example, would include a lot of da'if hadith as well. So every scholar will have their own like methodology and their own opinion about what to include in their books. Then scholars, like other scholars, who will go to their books and study them, research, and basically classify based on or take out of that books what is relevant and so on, and study them. Because sometimes even if hadith is da'if, is not necessarily da'if for in every aspect or by every scholar. And if it is hadith da'if, even if it is like very like hadith da'if and everybody agrees it's hadith da'if, maybe there are other sources that support it and elevate it from being da'if to hasan. We call that hasan li ghayri. It became a good for other hadith, for example, right? And so on. So I'm like, again, I'm not sure what is the question here. But anyway, I hope that maybe even remotely addresses your opinion, your question. Does each of the four madhabs have different positions in ulum al-hadith? That's a very good question, and I think we addressed that somehow in the fiqh course. Again, Abu Hanifa, for example, he had musnad, he has his own hadith. That was way before Bukhari was even born, right? So those scholars, those ulama, are scholars of hadith and more. Imam Malik, he has a muwatta, right? That's why some people will take the riwayah, the narration in Imam Muwatta over what is in al-Bukhari. So if the riwayah, two riwayah for Muslim or al-Bukhari, for example, and in Muwatta Malik, it is the same hadith but with different meaning or different narration, or there are some words that is not the same, they will take what is in Imam Malik book over the others because he has shorter narration. There is less time to change. The wording of narration is basically passed through shorter narration or shorter narration chain, and therefore the wording change is less susceptible to, or the wordings is less susceptible to being changed through the nation, right? So the scholar, the hadith, the book of hadith is just one of classes of evidence that are being considered by fiqh scholars. It's not everything. You can't just go to a hadith book and take the hadith and say, oh, it said that, then for the opinion is that. That's utter ignorance. That's exactly what a lot of people are doing now, those ignorant people who just got some book, hadith book, and just even they don't even have riwayah or didn't even have sheikh or ijazah or anything, and they better just open the Bukhari and say, oh, there is a Sahih Bukhari says so, and therefore I'll do that. That's wrong. That's basically wrong. That's why we have a lot of chaos in fatwa, because they didn't study fiqh methodology. They didn't study the other ways of evidence and other evidence and so on. It's fiqh is about collating all the evidence, all the hadiths, not just one hadith from one book. You have to collect the other riwayahs of this hadith from the other books, from other sources. Even if it is a riwayah da'ifa, you still have to look at it. And then to put everything in the drawing board. Look at the Quran, look at the opinions of the Salaf, how they reached that, and then study that within a very rigorous methodical way of studying the text, the scripture, which is basically ilm al-hadith, ilm usul al-fiqh, and then come up with the answer, consistent answer with basically every time. It is just another layer on top of the ilm al-hadith. It is another process over in the ilm al-hadith. They take what in ilm al-hadith and then they consider it from a fiqh point of view. All right. So ilm al-hadith is something, ilm al-tafsir is something, and therefore, for example, if the same scholar is doing tafsir and then writing a fiqh book, if you are taking the opinion in fiqh, you will take whatever he said in the fiqh book, not in his tafsir book. Right? You shouldn't take whatever in his tafsir book, because the tafsir book is a tafsir. It's targeting to give you different opinions about what people said, scholars said about tafsir, and so on and so forth, and then it stops there. Fiqh is something else. You go to the surgeon to do surgery. You go to the dentist to get something in your teeth. You go to whatever doctor it is. You go to the accountant to do your taxes, and so on. There are specialization. People who are not calling for specializations are unlearned or ignorant. Don't listen to them. He's saying Radi al-Din ibn al-Hanbali al-Hanafi, all right, says in Qawaf al-Athar that the benefit of Nukhbat or Nukhba of Ibn Hajar, Nukhbat al-Fikr, Ibn Hajar didn't reach 2/3 of al-Ummah. What is meant by this? I'm not sure what he meant by this, brother. Maybe if you can get the entire I look in the entire like section, and maybe I'll get an idea about what he meant. But Nukhbat al-Fikr is maybe at his time. Nowadays, Nukhbat al-Fikr is one of the main like books that we study and teach at a certain level after the beginning level. It's still like high beginner level, or like just before intermediate. So I'm not sure what he meant by that. If someone pretend to be non-Muslim or hide their religion, pretend to be non-Muslim, but don't utter a kalimat of kufr, does that take them out of fold of Islam? We talked about that in the Aqidah lesson, in like very, very detailed manner, in the Aqidah course. I think when we talked about وينطبق في كلمة الإسلام ما قد مضى من سائر الأحكام. Maybe I'm not sure what lesson that was towards the end. Maybe the few lessons, or like lesson or two before the last lesson. But basically, if they hide the religion, so they are Muslims, but they are not acting as Muslims, right? You have to define, or you have to distinguish between what is considered Muslim in dunya and who is considered Muslim or mu'min in the afterlife, or like in the judgment day. So just refer to that lesson. I think you will find your answer there. Can we trust a Salafi Wahhabi Sheikh to learn ilm al-hadith if they have authentic isnad? Well, you cannot trust them, because if you watch the falsification lesson in al-fiqh that we went through, I think that was lesson number 3, if I'm not mistaken, you will find out that it is a part of their creed that they can lie to support their aqidah, right? And they falsify the books of the scholars, and they change it to match. They scratch from the manuscripts whatever is against what they say, and so on. They cut it. I mean, some scholars saw them in Medina, in the library, cutting from the manuscripts parts, and basically and inking it with ink, with like black ink, to scratch, to take it out, to hide it, redact it, basically the manuscripts. So how can you trust those? You listen to them if you want, just to explain. Maybe there is a Salafi Sheikh who has a like a good teaching methodology. I mean, I wouldn't suggest it, because there are way more better Sunni scholars, right? But I mean, if you like the way he teach, for example, then if you want to listen to them. What is common between whatever they are saying and what the Sunni is saying, then that's, you can trust. Anything against that, you just basically throw away. And the point of that, if they have authentic isnad or authentic sanad, they will have authentic sanad. Yeah, I know that they will have that. But look at their sheikh, that will be a Salafi Wahhabi guy. Their sheikh, another one, maybe Salafi Wahhabi guy, or maybe not. The level after that, like the sheikh of the sheikh, certainly he is going to be a Sufi, Maturidi, or Ash'ari, 100%, and all the way to the Prophet after that. All right. So these are people that I mean, then they keep saying Sufis are mushrikeen, Ubbad Qubur, of course, lies and all nonsense. Ash'ari are kuffar or mubtadi'a at least. So they are accusing their own sheikh in isnad of being mushrikeen. So how can their isnad therefore is basically becomes void? You cannot call your sheikh mubtadi' and then say, yeah, I have isnad from them, because it mean what isnad means is basically whatever I am saying isn't according to my sheikh, who is according to his sheikh, who is according to his sheikh all the way to the Prophet, and therefore what I'm saying is exactly what the Prophet is saying. That's what isnad is. But if you are saying those Sufiya and Ash'ari are kuffar and mubtadi'ah, then basically you are saying whatever they told me is wrong. So what I'm saying now is not what they told me. It's something else. Right? So basically they are saying, okay, I know what the Prophet said, right? Like I'm jumping in a parachute 1400 years ago, and that's basically the understanding of the Salaf and the Sahaba and so on. Forget about all those people who are in my isnad. They don't know. They are mushrikeen and mubtada, and therefore his isnad is basically cut. It's not a continuous isnad. Okay, unless the point of time when they say no, that those people and those scholars in my isnad who are Ash'ari and Sufiya are actually correct, and Sufiya is correct, they are not kuffar. Ash'ari are correct, they are not mubtadi'ah. Then why are you Salafi then? Why are you Wahhabi then? You know, nobody told what you said you are saying, and it's basically Ibn Abd al-Wahhab, right? And Ibn Taymiyyah. That's basically your two main sheikhs. So whatever you are saying is bid'ah, basically. That is going like against the other sheikh in your isnad, right? So I hope that answers the question. And question: what are the beliefs of Ibadi sect? They are not Ahl Sunnah. They have I mean, that's a big topic. I don't think we have enough time to open now, but Ibadi is basically a watered down version of Khawarij, or they started Khawarij. They themselves basically deny they are Khawarij. They say, no, we are not Khawarij. But I mean, looking at the books and the like how they inherited their set of beliefs, it is basically based on Khawarij beliefs, although they are not really a fighting Khawarij. But in order to be Khawariji, you don't have to be fighting. You don't have to go and kill people. If you just believe that they are kuffar, or they are not like they are mushrikeen and so on, then that basically puts you within this circle, even if you are just in the border of the circle. So maybe we talk about that. There was a course that we wanted to do about the different sects, but I then got busy with the fiqh and the hadith and so on. So maybe we elaborate on that when we talk about the sects historically and now, inshallah. And by the way, this about takfir, we Ahl Sunnah, we do not declare anybody kufr unless they are actually declaring themselves as kafir. Right? So that's a principle in Ahl Sunnah. That's how we differ. Ahl Sunnah, we do not make or declare anybody kafir from Muslims, from that people who say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, we are Muslims, and they do prayer and whatever. Nobody is kafir. Right? That's just a general rule. Again, let's not go to questions where it strike a rift within an established or within a country. Okay, you are in Oman. There are Ibadiyya, and you are Sunni. We are all Muslims, right? So let's although we have our differences, but let's not go to the core issues that what makes us Muslims and try to make rift there. So praying or prayer is what of the main thing, the pillar that makes us all Muslims. So let's not try to find a way to make a rift there. Let's try to gather and make like get closer to each other, right? So again, I wouldn't advise you to make any issue about praying behind a body, if that is what is common in your country. Sheikh, kindly start an Arabic language course as well for beginners. Right. I mean, I've been asked that repeatedly from many people, but I keep saying no, because there are way more tutors and teachers in Arabic than in English. I'm trying to do something that serves the Ummah. So there are a lot of people already, a lot of courses recorded and non-recorded. There are a lot of scholars, great scholars, who teach hadith and teach all the other subjects in Arabic already. So there is no point of me doing Arabic courses. So that's the point. And doing Arabic courses will take a little bit of my time, more time, which is going to impact the course release of English. So I don't think that's ideal. Right. So with that, I think we finish. Thank you for joining and your questions. And I'll see you inshallah next lesson. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك استغفرك اللهم من كل ذنب واتوب اليك وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله وسلم تسليما كثيرا.